All right, so picture this. You're at a dinner party, and someone leans in and says, George Washington was a Freemason.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly everyone's like, whoa, Freemasons,
Right,
secret
yeah.
handshakes and rituals and all that. It's just something about them.
Yeah, there's a certain mystique, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's not just Washington. We're talking like 14 U.S. presidents. Mozart, even Buzz Aldrin, get this, established a Masonic lodge on the moon.
It's amazing how Freemasonry has kind of woven itself into history, both admired and feared.
Yeah, exactly. And today we're going deep, thanks to your request.
Okay.
We're diving into this world. We're going to unpack this fascinating interview with historian John Dickey, author of The Craft, How the Freemasons Made the Modern World.
Sounds good.
And we're going to try to separate fact from fiction.
Yeah, it's a long journey, from those London pubs to the halls of power, from stonemasons to the ideals of the Enlightenment.
Okay, so buckle up, because we're going to uncover what really goes on behind those closed lodge doors and how this centuries-old organization shaped the world we live in.
I think one of the things that makes Freemasonry so intriguing is its origins shrouded in myth and legend.
Yeah.
I mean, the Freemasons themselves claim to go all the way back to King Solomon's temple.
Which, let's be honest, sounds pretty awesome. I mean, who wouldn't want to be part of something like that?
Yeah.
With ties to ancient times.
It's a great story, no doubt, but the real historical roots, as John Dickey points out, are a bit more down to earth.
Okay.
We're thinking late 16th century Scotland, not ancient Jerusalem.
Okay.
We're talking guilds of stonemasons, the kind who were building cathedrals and castles.
So not quite the Knights Templar.
No, but just as interesting. These stonemasons, they had their own traditions and rituals, and they started incorporating elements of Renaissance philosophy and even the art of memory into their practices.
Wait, the art of memory, like memory palaces?
Exactly.
Where you visualize information stored in different rooms of a building?
Precisely. And those iconic Masonic symbols, the compass, the square, the all-seeing eye,
Yeah.
those weren't just decorative. They were memory aids used in these elaborate rituals, helping them recall complex architectural plans and philosophical concepts.
That's pretty cool. It's like turning your mind into a blueprint for knowledge.
Yeah.
But how do we get from Scottish stonemasons to a global organization with presidents and astronauts?
Well, a pivotal moment was the creation of the Grand Lodge in London in 1717.
Okay.
Think of it like establishing the rules for a sport, like the creation of the Football Association, or, how cricket got codified.
Okay.
It brought structure to what was previously a more localized and informal network of lodges.
Gotcha.
The Grand Lodge standardized rituals decided who could join,
Mm-hmm.
basically created this framework for expansion.
So it's like taking something from a local hobby to a national league.
Exactly.
Thanks.
And this shift coincided with Freemasonry attracting a new type of member gentlemen intellectuals. Even, let's just say, colorful characters. Dickey tells this fascinating story about the Chevalier d'Eon, a French spy who lived as both a man and a woman and was accepted as a Freemason in 18th century London.
A cross-dressing spy who infiltrated the Freemasons. That's a story I want to hear more about.
It really captures the spirit of the time. There's a sense of humor, eccentricity, and maybe even a surprising open-mindedness within Freemasonry, at least in certain circles.
Okay.
But more importantly, the Chevalier d'Eon story illustrates how Freemasonry was spreading from England to the continent.
And that's where it gets tied up with the Enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
All those ideas of liberty, equality, fraternity.
Exactly.
Those were core to Freemasonry and all this intellectual movement happening across Europe.
Right. Freemasonry in England became associated with Whig ideals,
Okay.
which championed individual liberties, constitutional government. As lodges popped up across Europe and the American colonies, they became hubs for discussing these ideas, almost like little intellectual salons of their time.
So were Freemasons like the original revolutionaries, spreading the seeds of democracy and challenging the old order?
Maybe not revolutionaries in the literal sense,
Okay.
but they definitely played a role in shaping the intellectual landscape that led to those revolutions.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that many of the founding fathers, like George Washington, were drawn to Freemasonry.
Right.
They were looking for ways to unify a diverse nation and create this new system of government. And Freemasonry, with its emphasis on tolerance and a supreme being
Right.
that transcended specific denominations, offered a model for that.
It's like they found a way to build a bridge between different beliefs and backgrounds.
Yeah.
And honestly, something we could use a lot more of today.
Absolutely. The principles of tolerance and unity that were central to Freemasonry during the Enlightenment are even more relevant now
Yeah.
in our increasingly polarized world.
Okay, so we got these high-minded ideals, these fascinating historical connections, but what about the secrets, the rituals, the stuff that really gets people talking about Freemasons? I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, that's what we all want to know about, right?
Well, I think what's so fascinating is that the reality of these rituals might surprise you.
Okay.
While there are levels of secrecy and symbolism, the core teachings are surprisingly simple.
So you're actually going to tell us the secrets just like that.
Whoa.
Aren't you worried about some shadowy Masonic figure appearing to silence us?
I think we're safe. Don't worry. The three main rituals, entered apprentice, fellowcraft, and master mason,
Okay.
each have a secret at their core. But as Dickey points out, these secrets are more like moral lessons than earth-shattering revelations.
Okay, so spill the beans. What are we talking about here?
Well, the first one is about being a good person.
Okay.
The second one encourages seeking knowledge. And the third emphasizes contemplating mortality,
Yeah.
which is presented through a rather dramatic, ritualistic death and rebirth.
Seriously. That's it. That sounds more like a self-help book than some hidden knowledge of
Yeah.
a secret society.
I think what's key here is not the content of the secrets themselves,
Okay.
but the power of ritual and belonging. Creating a sense of mystery and exclusivity can be a powerful way to bind people together and reinforce shared values.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that same secrecy has also fueled some pretty wild conspiracy theories about the Freemasons.
Yeah.
Like, weren't they accused of being devil worshippers at some point?
Yes, and that's where the Catholic Church comes into the picture.
Okay.
They saw Freemasonry as a threat to their authority, and the secrecy surrounding the organization just fueled their suspicions.
Like the symbols, the rituals, the hierarchical structure.
Yeah.
They all became fodder for conspiracy theorists who saw something sinister lurking beneath the surface. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Some of those Masonic symbols are pretty out there.
Right. I mean, the all-seeing eye, the
Yeah.
compass, and square the rituals with blindfolds, oaths. It's easy to see how someone with a suspicious mind might misinterpret those things. And that's where the story of Leo Taxil comes in. This French writer in the late 19th century, he concocted this elaborate hoax,
Okay.
claiming that Freemasons were devil-worshipping, engaged in all sorts of depraved rituals. He even invented a character, a lesbian devil worshipper named Sophia Sappho, who supposedly led the Freemasons.
A lesbian devil worshiper leading the Freemasons. Come on, that sounds like something out of a bad movie.
Right.
Do people actually believe this stuff?
It's incredible, right? But Taxil was very convincing, and his stories played right into these existing prejudices and anxieties about secret societies.
Right.
His hoax went on for 12 years before he finally admitted it was all made up.
Wow, 12 years.
Yeah.
It's a long time to keep up a lie. It just shows how easily misinformation can spread.
Right.
Especially when it taps into those fears.
Exactly. And unfortunately, these conspiracy theories have had real-world consequences. Dickey points out that in Francist Spain, Freemasons were brutally persecuted
Oh, why?
based on fabricated evidence.
That's awful. It's a chilling reminder that even seemingly harmless organizations can become scapegoats.
Yeah,
Especially in those regimes where dissent is crushed.
absolutely. It's a dark side to the story of Freemasonry, for sure. But on a lighter note,
Okay.
let's shift gears a bit and talk about their influence on the world.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that they played a role in the British Empire, right?
I remember reading something about that. How did that all work? Was it like a secret network of British spies?
Oh, no, not quite.
Okay.
Dickey argues that Freemasonry served as a kind of social glue for the empire,
Okay.
providing a network of support for British officials, soldiers, merchants,
Okay.
wherever they went in the world.
So like a home away from home, but with secret handshakes and rituals.
Exactly. It was a place to find familiar faces, shared values,
Mhm.
a bit of camaraderie in a foreign land.
Yeah.
And in some colonies like India, Masonic lodges became these spaces where British and Indian men could interact.
Yeah.
Although those interactions often reflected the power dynamics of colonialism.
Right. It's important to acknowledge that even though Freemasonry promoted ideals of brotherhood,
Yeah.
it existed within a system that was inherently unequal.
Absolutely. And in the United States, Freemasonry has a complicated history when it comes to race relations.
Right.
While many prominent figures like George Washington were Freemasons,
Mm.
there was also segregation within the organization.
Right. You mentioned Prince Hall Freemasonry earlier.
Yes,
That was the branch established by and for African Americans.
that's correct. Prince Hall Freemasonry emerged in the late 18th century
Okay.
and has this long and proud tradition of advocating for civil rights and social justice.
Mm.
Figures like Rosa Parks and Thurgood Marshall were members,
Wow.
and the organization played an active role in the civil rights movement.
It's fascinating how even within an organization that espouses universal brotherhood,
Mm-hmm.
you still see these divisions and struggles for equality.
It reflects the broader societal context, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it also highlights the agency of individuals within those systems
Right.
to challenge the status quo and fight for a more just world.
Okay, so we've talked about the origins, the rituals,
Right.
the conspiracy theories, the historical impact, but where does that leave us today?
Yeah.
What is Freemasonry in the 21st century? Is it still relevant?
That's a great question. While membership has declined in some parts of the world,
Yeah.
Freemasonry is still active and thriving in many places.
Okay, but what about all those accusations of secrecy and elitism?
Right.
Don't those things make it seem outdated or even suspicious to people today?
It's true that the image of Freemasonry has been tarnished by those accusations,
Right.
but many modern lodges are trying to be more transparent and open to the public,
Okay.
hosting events, doing charity work, basically showing that they're not some shadowy cabal controlling the world.
So they're trying to shed that image of the secretive old boys club and show that they're relevant in the modern world.
Exactly. They're emphasizing their commitment to community service, personal development,
Okay.
and those core values of brotherhood and tolerance.
Sounds like they're going through a bit of an identity crisis,
Mhm.
trying to balance tradition with the need to adapt to a changing world.
I think that's a fair assessment,
Hmm.
and it's a struggle that many organizations face,
Right.
especially those with long and complex histories. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
Freemasonry, like any human institution, is a reflection of the people who comprise it.
So it's less about the rituals and the secrets
Mm-hmm.
and more about the values and the connections people find within those structures.
I think that's a key takeaway from our deep dive.
Yeah.
Freemasonry, with all its contradictions and complexities,
Mhm.
ultimately boils down to this very human desire for connection, meaning, and purpose.
It's like we're all searching for something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Something to believe in, something to give us a sense of belonging.
Exactly. And that search can manifest in many ways, from joining a fraternity to volunteering in your community to simply connecting with friends and family.
And sometimes it can even lead to establishing a Masonic lodge on the moon.
Ah, yes. We can't forget about Tranquility Lodge,
Right.
established by Buzz Aldrin during the Apollo 11 mission.
Okay, seriously, how cool is that? You're on the moon,
Right.
taking one giant leap for mankind, and you decide to start a secret society.
It speaks to the enduring power of these rituals and traditions.
Yeah.
Even in the most extraordinary of settings.
Yeah.
And it also highlights the human need for connection and meaning, even in the vastness of space.
It's like saying, hey, even though we're exploring the cosmos, we still need that sense of community.
Right.
That grounding in something familiar.
Precisely. And I think that's a powerful message.
Yeah.
No matter how far we travel, how much we learn, how
Mhm.
much technology changes our lives, those fundamental human needs remain constant.
So what does all this tell us about Freemasonry today? Is it a relic of the past, a shadowy cabal, or something else entirely?
I think it's a bit of all of those things.
Okay.
It's an organization with a complex and often contradictory history,
Yeah.
but it also represents something universal about the human experience.
It's a reminder that even the most secretive and seemingly impenetrable organizations
Right.
are made up of individuals with their own motivations, beliefs, and contradictions.
Exactly. And I think exploring those individual stories,
Mhm.
those nuances and complexities can be more revealing
Yeah.
than focusing on the grand narratives or conspiracy theories.
So what's the final verdict on the Freemasons?
Oh.
Are they a force for good or a relic of the past?
I think that's for each of us to decide. What's clear is that Freemasonry, despite its controversies and contradictions, continues to fascinate and intrigue people around the world.
And perhaps that's the most important takeaway from our deep dive today.
Yeah.
The search for meaning, for connection, for something bigger than ourselves is a universal human impulse.
It's a search that can lead us down many different paths.
Right.
Some strange, some familiar, some illuminating, and some downright bizarre.
You know, as we've been talking about Freemasons, I keep thinking about that, saying truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, spies, devil-worshipping hoaxes, moon lodges. It's like a history book dipped in a conspiracy thriller.
It really makes you question what's real and what's imagined, doesn't it? And that's part of what makes Freemasonry so fascinating. It's this mirror reflecting our own anxieties and desires, our need to believe in something bigger than ourselves, even if it's hidden in secrecy.
I think you hit the nail on the head. We're all drawn to mystery, to those unanswered questions.
Right.
But like we've seen with the Freemasons, those mysteries don't always have easy answers. Sometimes the truth is more complex,
Right.
more nuanced than we expect.
Exactly. And that's where the real value of critical thinking comes in. It's about looking beyond those headlines and digging deeper,
Yeah.
considering different perspectives and questioning our own assumptions.
It's like we have to be our own detectives,
Yeah.
piecing together the puzzle, sifting through the facts and the fiction to find something that looks like the truth.
I like that analogy. And I think that's one of the big takeaways from our deep dive today.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking about Freemasonry or anything else that makes us curious,
Right.
it's important to approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism, a willingness to learn, and an open mind.
So after all this,
Yeah.
how do you think we should see the Freemasons?
Yeah.
Are they a force for good, a harmless social club, or something else?
I don't think there's an easy answer to that question.
Okay.
Freemasonry is a complex organization with a long and often contradictory history. It's been associated with both progressive social movements and reactionary forces, with high-minded ideals and questionable practices.
So they're not so different from any other group of people.
Right.
A mix of good and bad, light and shadow.
I think that's fair. And ultimately, it's up to each person to decide how they feel about Freemasonry based on their own values.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us, the non-Masons out here?
Right.
Why should we care about this centuries-old organization with its strange rituals and secret handshakes?
I think the story of Freemasonry gives us this unique lens to look at our own beliefs and motivations.
Okay.
It reminds us of the power of symbols and rituals, the importance of community and belonging, and this allure of mystery. But it also warns us about the dangers of secrecy, the potential for abuse of power,
Yeah.
and the importance of critical thinking in a world full of information.
It's a reminder that even in the age of the internet, with all this information, we have to be careful.
Right.
We have to question what we read and hear
Absolutely.
and come to our own opinions based on evidence and reason.
And I think on a more personal level, it challenges us to think about our own search for meaning and connection.
Yeah.
Do we need secret societies and rituals to find those things, or can we find them in our everyday lives?
That's a great question to think about.
Hmm.
And I think it's a good place to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of Freemasonry.
It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds open. Until next time, stay curious.